Crocodile's scientific classification consists of its kingdom being Animalia, phylum as Chordata, order as Crocodilia, and family as Crocodilidae. Crocodile's ancestors Crocodilomorpha first appeared in the late Triassic period 225 million years ago, while modern crocodiles appeared in Europe 145 million years ago. Crocodilidae consists of true crocodiles from freshwater and saltwater environments such as rivers and lakes. There is high diversity with crocodilians, including Crocodilomorpha, which includes crocodiles, alligators, and gharials, Simosuchus, which liked feeding on fruits, tubers, and ferns, and Thalassarchians, which had flippers instead of feet. Crocodilians have evolved from many lifestyles. During the Triassic period, ancient crocodilians were active animals according to fossils and not lethargic. However, the Mesozoic period, around 245 to 65 million years ago, is when Archosaura, a sister group that crocodiles belong to with birds and dinosaurs, dominated on land and in the sea. Another aspect to mention is the Pseudosuchia. Archosaurs belong to this group that went extinct around 200 million years ago. Crocodilomorphs survived this extinction and began to thrive. Alligator's scientific classification consists of its kingdom being Animalia, phylum as Chordata, order as Crocodilia, and genus as Alligator mississippiensis. The Oligocene epoch, around 33 million years ago, is when earliest alligator fossils were found. The modern Alligator mississippiensis appeared during the Miocene epoch, around 20 million years ago, and this period carried the most notable changes in alligator evolution. Alligators and caimans is how the alligatorid lineage divided. They have a diverse fossil record with fossils from the Cretaceous period over 80 million years ago. However, true alligators and caimans emerged around 60 million years ago. Gharial's scientific classification consists of its kingdom as Animalia, phylum as Chordata, order as Crocodilia, and genus as Gavialis. Gharial's divergence from all other crocodilians happened around 40 million years ago. It was believed to be the only member of the Gabalidae family. However, it shares the same family with the false gharial Tomastoma schlegii.
Diversification events and the effects of mass extinctions on crocodiliforms. The evolutionary history and rich fossil record of crocodiliforms reveal a significant diversification shift throughout their phylogenetic lineage. Results from the Royal Society of Open Science enable us to infer the initial radiation following the Triassic and Jurassic mass extinction, which is assumed to support the major diversification that led to the emergence of terrestrial protosuchians, marine thalassarchians, and semi-aquatic neurosuchians. From earlier extinction events during the Cretaceous, diversification was driven by notosuchians in terrestrial habitats, representing a second major burst of evolutionary activity. Topology-based analysis of crocodiliforms history somewhat overwhelmingly indicate the evolutionary basis to past extinctions and minor events was not a continuous process through time, and the diversification was therefore patchy. This coincides with the evolutionary events being restricted to specific subgroups and the events only occurring in environments like the marine, terrestrial, and semi-aquatic climates. This suggests that evolutionary aspects of crocodiliforms were driven by repeated opportunities and environmental pressures acting on particular periods, rather than continuous trends across the entire lineage. This pattern of extinction was also a significant factor in the extinction of marine thalassarchians in the early Cretaceous. Climate's role in the distribution of the Cretaceous terrestrial crocodiliforms. Patterns of extinction and survival amongst vertebrates across the Cretaceous tertiary boundary were due to climatic selectivity. Crocodiliforms survived the Cretaceous Paleogene mass extinction event with relatively low extinction rates compared to other archosaurs like the non-avian dinosaurs and pterosaurs, largely due to their semi-aquatic lifestyle, low metabolic rate, and flexible diets. However, the survival was not uniform across the entire crocodiliform clade. The specialized terrestrial forms of crocodiliforms were largely eliminated, leaving only generalized semi-aquatic lineages to dominate the Paleogene. The extinct horned crocodile. After a decade of controversy, scientists have collectively solved the classification surrounding the extinct horned crocodile, and they have determined its phylogeny. The extinct horned crocodile were endemic to Madagascar for 9,000 years. Since its discovery, this unique species has been classified in several different families, and as much of the classification was confusing, they had no clear evolutionary origin. Horned crocodiles were not very large, but their anatomy suggested their heavy set skulls meant their bite force was exceptionally powerful for their size. This led scientists to believe they had extensive adaptations for subduing large prey that coexist in Madagascar, like giant lemurs and dwarf hippos.
There are many anthropogenic effects that impact the diversity of crocodilians. Looking at the Venn diagram, heavy metal pollution impacts all three of the species. However, the type of heavy metal pollution varies based on the species. The American alligator and Nile crocodile are both exposed to lead, but for Nile crocodiles, the wild population is exposed, and for American alligators, the captive population is exposed. While the spectacled and Yacaré caiman are exposed to methyl mercury from gold mines. Invasive species can also vary in impact, as while the Nile crocodiles are affected by Chromalena or Dorata that destroys nest sites, American alligators are impacted by Burmese pythons that predate young alligators. In Brazil, the illegal hunting and selling of black caiman, Melassucus niger skins, both nationally and internationally, is high. Legal trade is also increasing due to an increasing amount of farms. However, this raises the demand and thus prices of black caiman skins, which encourages more illegal hunting, which is hard to stop due to a lack of environmental legislation. Subsistence hunting also takes place within indigenous communities, but an increase in gold miners is leading to an increase in the hunting of caiman for meat, which has the potential to become unsustainable. Climate change can cause demographic changes in population, as crocodilians determine sex of young via nest temperatures. Bock et al. Studied the potential future gender ratios of the American alligator in different climate scenarios. By 2050, in all scenarios, the gender ratio will be heavily skewed towards males, which will increase competition for a mate, which has a negative effect on reproduction. In low emission scenarios, by 2100, male hatchling rate may be as high as 97.8%, but in high emission scenarios, populations will be mostly female, which, while better than a mostly male population, is still not ideal. In Lake St. Lucia, located in South Africa, many wild Nile crocodiles, especially male ones, have high levels of lead in their blood and fat tissue. Warner et al. Identified the cause of this is likely to be due to the ingestion of lead fishing weights abandoned by fishermen to aid with digestion. The chronic effects of this include major tooth loss, examples of which are shown by pictures on the right, which will lead to specimens being less capable of eating certain food sources, and anemia, which was identified in one individual in Humphrey et al.'s study.
Crocodiles, also known as Crocodilia, Crocodilia, and Crocodilian, are considered of the phylum Chordata and are adapted to an amphibious way of life. Crocodilians have an elongated armoured body and a long muscular tail to aid them in rapid swimming and burst acceleration. Similarly to birds, crocodiles have a four-chambered heart. This allows for more oxygenated blood flow to the muscles, which allows them to regulate body heat. It also helps with oxygen retention after spending long periods of time underwater. Crocodilians also harbour a lateral line of sensory organ found in fish and amphibians. This system allows them to detect slightest pressure changes in the water, alerting them to movements of any potential prey and predators long before they're seen. Nile crocodiles, Crocodilus niloticus, attain lengths up to 23 feet and weigh in at around 1,200 kilograms. They have all the main adaptations seen in most other species of crocodilians. However, unlike American alligators, they have a V-shaped snout, which aids in drastically increasing their ability to grip and hold onto prey, having a bite force of around 3,700 psi. American alligators, Alligator mississippiensis, reach lengths of about 10 to 15 feet and weigh in at around 450 kg. American alligators have a U-shaped snout, which allows them to increase the total surface area of their bite. It also increases their bite force, which is 2,155 psi. Gharial crocodiles are a unique crocodile and share the specialized family tree with false gharials. Gharials have a long, thin snout with around 110 interlocking teeth, perfectly adapted to capturing fish in their environment. A typical gharial will be around 12 to 15 feet in weight and weigh around 400 kg. And mostly nocturnal, as this is when it's easier to hunt. Unlike other predators, crocodiles are extremely patient strategists. They can lie in wait for up to 2 hours along the water's edge, nearly motionless, conserving energy until the right moment to strike. They use a sit and wait technique when it comes to hunting. Adaptations for crocodiles is also evident in their reproductive strategies. After mating, females will construct an elaborate nest, often mounds of vegetation and mud, in which they lay their eggs. The decomposition of vegetation provides crucial incubation heat. The mother then diligently guards the nest, protecting it from predators. Once the eggs are close to hatching, the offspring will begin to vocalize from their shells, and the mother will gently excavate the nest to help them emerge. This parental care, though limited to the initial assistance and nest guarding, is vital for the survival of the vulnerable offspring. Female gharials, however, nest quite differently from other crocodilians. They need to make a tough job on the sandbanks where they lay their eggs, often alongside other females. In these communal nesting sites, multiple mothers may team up to protect the hatchling. Male gharials use their guard to vocalize and blow bubbles, similarly to other crocodiles who use this sort of bellowing to create a bubble dance on the backs of their bodies.